Hi everyone, I'm Elle, Head of Content here at Dark Horse, and today I want to talk to you about Google ranking factors. An estimated 8.5 billion searches are made on Google every day, so it's no surprise that every website wants to rank top of Google search results, but achieving that top spot isn't easy. Google uses over 200 ranking factors to determine which website will best respond to a user's search. Now don't panic. We're not going to sit here and chat through 200 ranking factors, but instead go over the most important ones. Now, depending on who you talk to in SEO, the most important ones will vary, but my expertise lies in content. So I'm going to run you through 5 SEO Google ranking factors to consider from a content perspective. Let's get started. So the first Google ranking factor I want to talk about is high quality content that is helpful to the user. So this is a little bit reductive, but high quality content essentially boils down to 4 things. Content being unique, original, valuable, and helpful to the user. And if you respond to all 4 of these criteria, Google will rank you higher. So when it comes to writing helpful content, you want to consider 5 things. First, you want to make sure that you're answering your customers' key questions. So you can do this by performing keyword research, using Google's People Also Asked, and key tools like Answer the Public to determine what questions people are asking about a particular topic, and then making sure that the content on your page answers those key questions. Second, you want to make sure that your content is kept updated with the most relevant information. So if you work in an industry where new legislation is released, new research is published, or advice changes, you want to make sure that your content reflects those changes. So you might update the page and mark when and why those updates have happened, so Google knows you're providing the latest and most accurate information to your user. You also want to ensure that your content is different and better than your competitors. There's no point just replicating what someone else has done. If you do, Google will flag it as duplicate and penalize you for it. Instead, you want to make sure that all the content you're producing is unique. You also want to ensure that your content is well structured, so it's providing a good user experience. You can do this by having clear headings, short and concise paragraphs, short and concise sentences, bullet points, and numbered lists. You also want to ensure that your content is a decent length. Now, there's a lot of debate within the content world about how long a website page should be or a blog post, but essentially it boils down to this. If your competitors have written an article which is 600 words and you've only written 300, the likelihood is that within their 600 words, they're answering a lot more key questions than you are and providing more valuable information. So don't fall behind. Look at how much content your competitors are writing and try and match it using your keyword research to determine what key questions you should be answering and making sure that you're providing the most helpful content to the user. The second Google ranking factor to consider is optimized content. So when you're writing content for a website, you're obviously going to perform keyword research first, and you want to make sure that your content is optimized around that one trophy keyword and its secondary keywords. So make sure that trophy keyword sits within your page title, your meta description, your slug, as well as any alt text, and then you want to make sure it's used regularly throughout your copy in subheadings and approximately once every 200 words, as long as it's used naturally. If it's unnatural, use those secondary keywords to build up the authority towards that trophy keyword. Speaking of keywords, that brings us to Google SEO ranking factor number 3, search intent. So when someone searches for something on Google, there's always an intent behind the type of keyword that they're using. So if someone searches for a keyword like banana bread, even though they've not used banana bread recipe, Google still knows that they're likely looking for recipes, and as such will provide results which match that search intent. If someone searches for removing bike wheel, Google knows that they're likely looking for a tutorial video on how to remove a bike wheel or a blog with step-by-steps. So Google understands what the search intent behind each of those keywords is. So when you're mapping out your content, you need to consider that search intent to decide what keyword to target on what type of page. If you're targeting the keyword vitamin C supplements, for instance, you'll need to know that that keyword is transactional and the person searching for that is likely looking to purchase that product. Consequently, you might use that keyword on your product page. But if someone's searching for benefits of vitamin C supplements, that keyword is informational, meaning the user is looking to find out more information about vitamin C supplements. So something that might best respond to that query is a blog or an FAQ section. So when you're mapping out your keywords for the website, make sure you take search intent into consideration. The fourth Google ranking factor to consider is site structure. So it seems obvious, but having a site which is well structured is going to provide a better user experience because the user will be able to find what they're looking for more easily. You want your site structure to be well thought out with clear, easy to follow navigation that is centered around your product offering. So let's say you're a retailer. You don't want your navigation to just be home, shop, blog, about us. Instead, you want to build out that shop section to showcase from the get-go what product offering you have. So you might consider swapping out shop for men's, women's, brands, new in, etc. And then having subsections within each of those categories to highlight what products you're offering. So within the women's sections, you might have tops and shirts, jumpers, skirts, dresses, trousers, etc. And what that means is when the user goes to your website, hovers over your navigation menu, they're able to see all of the types of products that you're offering and navigate directly to the one that they're looking for. So when you build out your site structure, you want to consider that a user should be able to find what they're looking for within 2 to 3 clicks. The final Google SEO ranking factor to think about is user experience. So I've obviously spoken about user experience all throughout this because there are so many things that contribute towards a good user experience. Readability, high quality content, site structure as just a few examples. But there are 3 key things which Google uses to assess whether or not your website is providing a good user experience. The first is click-through rate. So when someone searches for a keyword, if they find your website and then click through to it, Google will see that as you responding to the needs of that user. To ensure you have a high click-through rate, you want to make sure that your page title and that your meta description are optimized towards that keyword and have a strong call to action. The second factor is bounce rate. So when a user lands on your website, if they then leave that website without interacting with anything on the page, Google will see that as negative. Vice versa, if someone spends a lot of time on that page, which brings us to the third point of user engagement, Google will see that as you providing valuable information to that user. To ensure they spend as long as possible on that site, you want to make sure that you've got internal links and call to actions all throughout. Those are just 5 of 200 ranking factors Google uses to determine which website to recommend to a user. If you need an SEO agency that helps Google take notice, speak to Dark Horse.